Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another version of my Woodruff cast. I'd like to give a shout out to you, the readers and listeners of my newsletter on Substack, and especially to my paid subscribers, because each of you make a production like this possible. And then everyone else gets to enjoy that, and I pay my mortgage. Anyway, today I am really happy to announce that I'll be joined by Elsa from elsa.com. You there, lady?
Yeah. Well, it's strange because my husband's gone for 4 days, and this is just incredible. I mean, this can happen when you have kids. I haven't been alone in the house for 4 days like I am now since 1995. Can you believe that?
If I
It's,
don't believe that, that
I'm
sounds
serious. Like you
insane.
have two kids, and you have a kid, and they hang around 20 years, and you have two of them, and then you're married, and so I'm
So
still in shock.
the kids you're saying have moved out of the house.
Oh yeah, but you have kids. I'm saying that, since my daughter was born in 1995, and she hung around, right? And then my son was born, and then I married, so I literally have not been alone in the house for 4 days since 1995.
My God, that's
This is,
insane.
and who would have ever thought? And I was pretty much always alone until 1995. It's strange. I feel
Yeah.
good.
Well, good. All right. This is so wild. It seems like we're color coordinated with the
Oh
autumn
yeah.
leaves.
Well, I didn't realize you went to get a drink and I grabbed mine and I did this and I thought, oh,
No,
matchy matchy. I
but
didn't
that
even
is,
realize
it's
that.
great because I've got these kind of orange colors on
The
that are
red, yeah.
behind you, and you're talking to a gay guy when they're going to color coordination. Okay, so everybody, I we're here today with Elsa, and she runs the incredible Elsa.com. It's a blog and a forum, and it is the longest running astrology watering hole, hands down, on the inner tubes. And I love getting together with Elsa because she, I feel, has a much more kind of like intimate finger on the pulse of like what is happening with the astrology community in general, combined with her forum and her blog has a very conversational vibe to it. It doesn't take like this real hardcore highfalutin style to it. And I appreciate that because I'm kind of out there myself and unhinged. So I think it's always a good matchup when Elsa and I are able to get together. How are things going? Let's touch in with what we're doing.
Well, I think they're going back inexplicably. They're going better than I would think, considering all the conditions and all the things that are going on, and the fact that, like, I'm independent and you can't be on, social media, and Google and search doesn't send traffic anymore. And so I really thought I'd be like dead by now, and I'm still making a living. Seeing this coming for more than 10 years. I'm just very attuned. And for the minute that, of course, we've said this before, I used to dominate the search, years ago, like 25 years ago, I used to dominate all the search. And when Google started putting those little blurbs, when a person searched, I saw the beginning of the end immediately. As soon as
Yeah.
I saw, like Mars and Aquarius here, and Google would tell you what it is. And of course, now it's AI. But I've watched this whole arc, and um, I'm shocked at how bad it's gotten, and well, I'm still here.
And that, yeah, like Elton John's song, I'm still standing. And it's funny that you've
Yes,
got Capricorn rising
I
people.
guess.
They
I
they
guess
will
I
they
had
will
a goal.
persevere through
I had a
everything.
goal to make it 25 years. Just arbitrary. to make it 25 years. Like somebody made a remark, well, after 25 years, I realized blah, blah, blah. And I said, I'm going to make it 25 years. So
Yeah, and you
I'm nearing
did, and
that.
you're here and you're living to tell.
Yeah.
So I do want to acknowledge what you're saying though, because I've been online as long as you have, though it wasn't running an astrology site. It was a porn site that was how I got my entree with my moon and Scorpio and Saturn and Scorpio onto the internet. And then eventually split into doing a whole other thing with an astrology site. But we have all seen what you're describing as far as the drying up of traffic, the takeover of search by AI. People don't really understand that with AI, that when you run a search and you get the AI, it's cutting you off from possibly much better, well researched content that would be on websites like yours or like mine back in the day. So people are just grabbing the blurb, like you're saying, from the AI play out and then, moving on, and they think they've learned everything about Mars and Aquarius or whatever.
That's true. But if you extrapolate, this is going to get a lot darker because people, when they cut everybody off and they shrivel up and die, then the content, anything, there is no content but what the big AI brain tells you. And then it can tell
Yeah.
one person one thing and the other person the other thing. And like they do now, people get information from different sources and they read different things and they have different knowledge and they don't match up and we fight like
Hmm.
cats and dogs all day long. And
Hmm.
so they can give you any information. We don't know where like right now, fast forward 5 years, where is it going to be? Who is determining what you're told to take as
Well,
gospel?
sure.
Because AI, like it's the big giant brain, especially when you're growing up like this, there's no other perspective.
But
Because
I do, because I'm active with other smaller groups, say like Seth Werkheiser, who runs the social media escape club. And these are people that are dealing with things like we're talking about right now. They realize that social media as a support to their business or art or whatever they're doing is basically shriveled up. And it's really just now for the advertisers and for Google and Meta and to like you've said before, control the narrative. But people are getting wise to it. There's a movement now to start like a whole other open source version of the internet that would have social media type products or platforms on it. I mean, that's just starting to be talked about now. But I think big tech has backed itself into a corner with its greed and its obsession with power and surveillance. And well, we talked about this the other day before we got on here about um, there's like a Y coming in the cultural road. People are going to go deeper into AI, or they're going to split off and then return back to, more personal types of engagements and web experiences that are based around that. They're more unique, they're more tailored to, say, a smaller group of people, of like-minded people. I call them nodes, where people, and then I think these nodes will be connecting, and then all the big tech shit will not be sticking its finger in the pie. But let's move to, because I think we're kind of like inching our way into the movement of Pluto into Aquarius. And of course, every astrologer on the planet has been doing reams on this about what, is anticipated with that transit. But I want to get your take as far as this theme of AI or tech, and then also what that might mean for people becoming as we saw in the American Revolution, the French Revolution, when Pluto was in Aquarius again so many hundred years ago, what do you see on that side of the equation related to that transit?
First, before we move on, this because this is hot off the presses. I was looking at this right before I signed on. An engineer from TikTok quit his job 6 months ago, and now that they're going out of business, he did. I asked me anything, and he said that he's talking about the talent and the people that work there, and they are all they're going to Meta. And he said that Matt, this is whether he's right or wrong or lying. He appeared to be legit to me. He quit 6 months ago rather than try to hang in and wait for severance. And then, anyway, he said that they're going to be massive. That's who's going to inherit TikTok. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's going to be absolute monster.
Well, I know that Meta has been kind of underhandedly lobbying for actions that work against TikTok by, supporting things that say TikTok is harming children, as if Meta isn't. But anyway, to
Well,
your
he said that
point,
the algorithm for TikTok is light years ahead of everyone else's, and
yes.
apparently that's who's going to inherit. Just FYI, it's very that he just posted today, so I just happened to see that. So
Wow.
you want to talk about what I think about Pluto in Aquarius? I started actually writing about this in 2015 because you just see it coming. I just have it's the way that I am. I like sense it. And so the power of technology and all and the shadow side.
Hmm.
As I said the last time, down with people, meaning people, the Leo, the heart, the creativity. It is to me dystopian. It is.
Hmm.
I know that the people, the little people rise up. Well, let's hope so.
I
I hope so. But that to me, that's what it is. It's the shadow side of technology, and
yes.
it's the eradication. Like Leo is warm. I don't mean to be disrespecting Aquarius. My mother's a double Aquarius. My father's Aquarius. He has four planets in the sign. I love Aquarius, but this is, we're talking about Pluto, and it's always the shadow side of the sign.
I've seen this as another theme on this transit. I keep seeing astrologers conflate Pluto going into Aquarius as the dawning of the Aquarian age. Like, I'm like, no, this is Pluto moving in there. I don't know where the fuck the Aquarian age is. I don't know if anybody does. But I think that is a crazy conflation of things because, like you're saying, and especially when Pluto gets into those early degrees of a sign, it just opens up that Pandora's box that each sign, has.
They're getting rid of like all in the chains, they're getting rid of all the cashiers. There's a lot of pressure. They're pushing people. They want everyone to digitally, scan the stuff themselves on their phone, carry your phone at all times, just
Yes,
tracking. Um,
yes.
I don't know how this can be missed. What I really noticed, because I would I've been blogging all this whole time, so I like to use pictures and I like to use interesting pictures. And the internet used to be full of interesting pictures. Whatever you typed, you got abstract interpretations of a term, right? Whatever you could type, you could find all kinds of interesting pictures. So they're all gone. They're all gone. And every picture that you can pull up, like on images, they're generally for sale. There's nothing free. They're all staged.
Hmm.
Everything is staged. Nothing is
Yeah.
organic and nothing is like real people doing real things. It's actors pretending to do real things,
Yeah,
and it's
stock
sterile.
photos.
And now they say I think they just get rid of everything but graphs and force you to use AI. And then the AI is subtly manipulative with the images and what it's showing your eye. And I don't think people see this at all. But I think
Some
it's
don't.
good.
Some don't. I think like I said, there's a fissure opening up of people falling deeper into that crevice like you're describing. And then there's other people that are like, okay, I've had enough of this, moving on. And I think those will be the front runners of what is wrought by, Pluto being in Aquarius, bringing out the worst qualities, and then people forging something else. So that's what I'm hoping for.
You're, see, I'm just sitting here like earthy and bitching. You're on the
Yeah,
move, and that's
okay.
what
We're
I
going to
do.
change the tenor.
I'm just sit here and look at things and bitch.
So I think, one of the things that we had discussed earlier too, before recording, was looking at the outer planet transits, with Pluto being in Aquarius, Neptune goes into Aries soon. We've got Uranus moving into Gemini. And as you were pointing out, those are making basically good aspects to one another. And I think I find that encouraging. There's more harmony between the outer planets, which I translate that to mean, as people react to the kind of Earth moving changes that the outer planets connote, there'll be more ease with it, and less disruption. Like, what's your take with that harmonious set of aspects there?
Well, I definitely think it's been positive. That set up some years ago. It's been holding. When I realized, when I noticed it, it's about a 5-year period where they stay in harmony. So, I mean, I definitely think it's positive. Um, and we need anything positive we can because, well, I shouldn't say that. Like I'm looking forward to Uranus and Gemini, and I think that overall everything's going to speed up. And so just be nice. If we were aimed somewhere in a better direction, I'd be happier. Because
Hmm.
I don't like where we're aimed at this point in time. We're being manipulated, right? Pluto by technology,
Hmm.
and it's
Yeah.
changing us.
Yeah. But you have to
And
look at
it's the
these.
conformity,
Yes.
that's what really bothers me.
And that's one of the, you could say, shadow sides, I think, of just Aquarius. Don't put Pluto in the mix, but that urge to, be blended into the collective, which Aquarians have. I definitely see that within, the people that take tech as a religion, which really established when Neptune was moving through Aquarius before it got into Pisces, when everyone had a desktop computer, then came the phones later. But that allure and turning tech uh, into a religion, Neptune, really got its foothold there. And then now Pluto coming in there is the great, like, crunch, like you're saying. But like I'm saying, that urge for freedom and revolution that's part of the Aquarian archetype, or whatever you want to call it, I think that too is getting triggered and starting to get a foothold. So we'll see.
It's swelling up.
We'll
I
see.
agree with you.
Well, all of that said, what do you see as encouraging for people? Because I'm in the work I'm doing with people, as well as highlighting how like crazy it is and challenging it is, trying to like offer things of encouragement, because unless you're MAGA in this country, and that's admittedly 50% of the people or so, unless you're MAGA, people are really down in the mouth now. And then, the inauguration coming up in a couple days,
Right.
all the tech bros up on the platform with Trump. I mean, it's a very dark emblem.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So, I think that you have a Pluto transit, and I just started to, think about this and write about this. How is Aquarius going to deal with Pluto? Like an Aquarius person going to deal with a Pluto transit. And I think that uh, you have to leave your comfort zone. Pluto takes you into your takes you into your uncomfort zone. You have to accept that. And I think uh, decide to uh, um, leave your comfort zone and live life, accept life and all of the reality all the way deeply, to transform. To like I think what I wrote is that Aquarius will be able to handle Pluto because they'll be able to figure it out. Like you don't like where you're at, you don't like where you're going, you don't like it, but you're still there, and you're only going to be so long before Aquarius figures out that they've got to dive. Like you got to. It's like being told, like, your spouse is dying. You don't want to be in this position, but you're in the position. Go deeper, and you and
Mm,
you reach the sublime. And and,
that's a
and
great take on that.
that's it. We're not, you don't come up when you're being taken down. And so you go being a quit, I just look at everything. I grew up playing cards, from when I was a little kid. I look at everything like that. That you deal the cards and you play the cards. You got to
Hmm.
play the cards you're dealt, including
Yeah.
Trump. You play the cards. These are the cards. This is the schema, and you're still going to be you. It's, to have some integrity because Aquarius is also Saturn ruled. They can handle
Hmm.
it. They can handle it.
Hmm. But what you say, just I flashed on something about looking at the zodiac as a cycle and how Aquarius goes into Pisces, which is the end of the cycle. And like what you're saying about Aquarius, some kind of dawning, not the age of Aquarius, but some kind of an epiphany for the Aquarian mindset of things come to an end. Yes, there's the future and all that promise that I think people conflate with Aquarius because they bring Uranus in as another
Yeah.
ruler.
Yeah.
But there is the sobriety that the Aquarian has and realizing that things come to an end. And it's like James Hillman said, like way back about the era we're living in now. People don't really want to acknowledge that they might be living at the end of a cycle, at the end of an empire, at the end of something that they thought was going to go on and on and on. And we might be the souls that are here for the end. Not to get depressive
I,
about it,
I agree. I
you
agree.
know,
So you're a spiritual being, and you're put on this. I just like it's a plain board, right? You're just put in you're put on this in these circumstances, and you can still shine. You can still shine and live. You can. I mean, it's
exactly.
not what you choose. It's not
Right.
what you choose, but you sometimes get a lot more out of the negative experiences. They do force growth. So the Aquarius is like, hey, I don't like it. I don't like it. Yeah, yeah, but you're still here. Okay, so
Hmm.
now you put your mind to it, and you go in there and then you reach the sublime and then you transform. And then
Hmm.
the transit ends.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And I think part of what you're saying too requires stepping out of the kind of hypnotic trance they have everyone in now because of all the interconnectedness, the social media, the internet, the phones, the constant, self-referencing by looking at the mirror, the screen mirror, which is kind of a crazy pathology. And then because all the news that we get all the time is it's dark, dark. I mean, you don't really stop and read good news, really.
But
The human
Aquarius has this
animal.
handled. Detach, and discipline. Detach and
Yes.
discipline. Okay, if there's anyone who can detach from an addiction and get through it, it's an Aquarian. They just can't right now, in my experience, what I'm getting is they just can't cope with it. They're going to a dark place where you're already there. So you might as well, snap too, you know?
Snap out of it. I'll tell you one of the other things when I read about all the tech bros being up there with Elmo, I mean with that's what I call Elon Musk now is Elmo. When I saw Elmo, Zuckerberg, uh, what's the other one? Oh, fucking Jeff Bezos. And then I think they've got the CEO of TikTok is going to be up there with Trump as well. This is how we know TikTok will be saved. If it goes to Meta, that might be what that's about. But anyway, um, so I started to reevaluate the Saturn Neptune conjunction that's coming up in Aries very soon. And I had higher it had higher hopes for that conjunction, but now I'm thinking it's representing the initial stages of this new, you know, Neptunian ideal of or vision of the alpha males, which the irony of all of these people I just listed, Zuckerberg, Elmo, is they're all like nerds and wimps, really. They're not, you know, like,
They're actors.
huh?
They're actors. So
Well, they're actors.
I just see them acting.
Well, they're actors, but they're also, I think all of them, Elmo, Zuckerberg, Peter Thiel, maybe Bezos, they all seem on spectrum to me. I think
Yeah,
Elmo
definitely.
has Asperger's, but it's just so weird that if indeed I'm right about this Saturn Neptune thing in Aries, that this is this first iteration of this new tech bro Asperger alpha masculinity. I just think it's bizarre. Do you see where I'm going with this?
I do. I do. I mean, and you may be exactly right. I think that what I see is a central control of power. I see Pluto in Aquarius. I see, all of them aligned, you know. So I
Hmm.
kind of look at the like they're like definitely what do you call them? Elmo, like power, grace with
Hmm.
power. And so I think that's like Pluto. And then as far as idealizing men, there
These
is going to
kind
be a
of men.
conjunction. Yeah, but see, there is going to be a conjunction, but it's fleeting. Saturn is going to keep going. It's not coming back. So what I see is like all the fog, and here comes Saturn to clarify. It's going to
Hmm.
slowly clarify. And then I told you, I think that Saturn and Neptune's boots on the ground. I mean, I think there's maybe like it's a hard landing. You're back in reality. I kind of sometimes I look at Pisces as like being in the womb, like a prison, because I'm not, I like to run. And so Aries, of course, you're born and you can scream your head off and you get traction. So I
Mm.
think we get traction in whatever's going on. But then Saturn moves on and it does not come anywhere near Neptune again. So it's not whatever kind of idealized, if that happens, it's not going to hold.
Hmm. But these conjunctions are like a seed that gets planted, though. So
That's
something
true.
something gets awakened in the group mind or the collective mind. And I like the image of boots on the ground, like, Saturn getting out of Pisces, so it passes through Neptune, and then, like you're saying, it keeps
Go time.
going.
It's called go time.
Right.
Aries, go
But we
time.
but we still have Neptune there in Aries, which tends to like set up these kind of religious or like visionary or ideological almost like make something into a religion of whatever sign it's in. Like when it was in Aquarius, the religion of tech came in. And then
Right.
in Neptune going through Pisces was such an odd, it was almost like the religion of chaos, which, Trump really capitalized on. And also the religion of nostalgia, because everything was kind of old and being redone. All the movies were sequels and prequels, and the originality factor that Aries represents was kind of out of the equation. So I'm hoping, in things in like art, cinema, things like that, that the Neptune and Aries is going to galvanize something exciting, and Saturn passing through there, plants that seed. So that's another take I have on that. Because, Neptune's going to be in Aries for how, I don't know, 15 years. Something that's also difficult to try to corner when we go into these things looking at individual planets and individual signs is that it's leaving out like, you know, three-fourths of what else is going on in the solar system. And people, I see astrologers do this all the time. They're like, well, when, Neptune was in Aries back in 115 years, and then they look at what was going on historically, then thinking that that is going to repeat. But
Yeah,
but Pluto wasn't in Aquarius
I
then.
agree.
Jupiter wasn't in Cancer. And so, I mean, I understand it's tempting to do it, and I toy around with that too. But if you read like Richard Tarnas's book, Cosmos and Psyche, it's filled, I mean, to the brim with all of that kind of analysis. And I think sometimes astrologers have to just kind of admit to themselves they don't know what in the fuck is happening.
Yeah, they come and tell me I'm stupid all the time. They tell me I'm stupid because of what happened in 1700. And I don't know what to say. Maybe they're smarter than me. We have to wait and see. I mean, I don't know because I don't think like that. And that's the thing about me is I started with astrology when I was 8 years old, and I never met another astrologer till I was in my mid 30s. And so everything I know is completely out of my own head.
I
So
was the same way as a kid, not 8 years old. That's mind blowing to me. I love that.
yeah.
But like you, there was all those years before I started learning from teachers, where it was in my imagination, in my head, and what I was reading and figuring out. That
So
set me on my way.
someone comes along and then they get traction somehow and then they train, that this is what you're supposed to do. If it happened in 1700, it's going to happen. I think the same way you do. I mean, Uranus and Gemini is going to, fuck shit up is what I'd say. I'm
Hmm.
looking forward to that. I love the whole original thinking and shocking speech, all of that. I love that. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
kind of that gives me hope.
yeah, I
After you said
agree.
let's hope, Uranus and Gemini gives me hope.
I agree. I'm down for that transit as well. But, I was talking to Nick Dagan Best a couple times this past year, and he's done so much study about Uranus through the US history and tracking all of that. And according to him, every time Uranus is back in Gemini, the US is in some kind of crazy ass war. So let's hope we skip that version of Uranus and Gemini this time.
See, I'm married to a soldier, and I can tell you this: we're always in a crazy ass war. We just may not announce it.
Thank you. That is so fucking right on. Yes, it is true, especially the US. It's got its fingers all over the
Yes, we're
place.
always in a war. And like war is business and business is good. That is a fact. So,
What sign is your husband?
he's a Taurus with a Scorpio moon.
Oh, right. He's another Scorpio moon in your life. Hello, here I am. No, but how is he with a Scorpio moon? I guess that's where the soldier
Well, he's
part
a Green
goes.
Beret, so he's fierce.
Wow.
He's raw male energy. He's raw as they come. He's
This is
raw.
exciting me
Yeah.
hearing this. Um,
You didn't know that? You didn't know I married a Green Beret? But look at the mouth on me. Who else can stand me? We have to stand each other.
me, that's why I love
I
having
met
you
him when
on.
I was 17 and he is 19.
So what is a Taurus? See, I find Taurus folks, not to get stereotypical, but I will because we do this in astrology, even though we try not to. But I find that Taurus folks of all the signs are the ones that have the most difficult time with something like irrational, like astrology. Does he does he have that opinion or like, you know?
Well, he stays out of it. I tell him he's a Taurus with a Scorpio moon, and he says he's a triple Taurus and nothing but. That's what he says. He says, I'm Taurus, I'm all Taurus. But he does like the symbol for Scorpio, he said once, but really he just stays out of this. He stays out of this, I stay out of war. We got boundaries.
That's a good way to run the household. So that's
There's like a
interesting.
wrestling outside. It's like this is how we live. There's wrestling outside. I say, well, aren't you gonna do something? And he says, I'm napping. If they get in the house, I'll kill them. That's what he says.
I think I need a Green Beret boyfriend. This
He
has
said he
planted a
says
seed.
anyone who gets him out of bed is gonna get killed. That's what he says. He's a Taurus, like he just wants to nap.
So yeah, that's that. Yes. And one of the things though about Taurus people, when they do like get, say, into astrology or something, then they are like hardcore. I've
Yeah.
noticed. Like they
Yes.
convert really hard. And so it's an interesting sign.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree with you. I agree with you. And I mean, it's Taurus astrology. They've got books and they've got notebooks and yeah, yeah, I definitely agree with that. I don't meet them very often. What is the sign that you think it has the most astrologers?
I've heard, what was it, Virgo?
I think it's Virgo, hands
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
Hands down, because I think Virgo just wants to know. They want to know. They want to know everything. They want to know.
Yeah, and they can communicate like it's not been confirmed, but I've found out through different ways that Michael Luton, who's one of my favorite astrologers, he just passed on
Yeah, I
last
know.
year,
One of my
was a
favorite too.
Virgo.
Yeah.
And Liz Green, who to me is just stellar in the astro teacher pantheon, is a Virgo, I'm pretty sure. So and I don't know the other, but those are two influential astrologers in my life.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting. Where did you? Is that you did a poll on Elsa?
No, it's an opinion, but I'll tell you where if I really go back, do you know a Barbara? I hope I don't get her name wrong. Barbara Ann Clow, who wrote Rainbow Bridge.
No.
That's a
What's her
really
story?
eccentric. Well, I don't know her story, but I've read her book. Her book is totally eccentric. It's very interesting, and she theorizes and that Chiron is the ruler of Virgo, and Virgo has a talent to bring the ethereal down to the common person, which I feel exactly what I do.
Mm,
You're the conduit to the common man,
yes. Yeah.
the book is called Chiron, the Rainbow Bridge.
Mm,
It's very interesting. It's completely unique. And that's the only place you're going to get this. I've written about it on my blog, but it's been years. The book is old. It's at least 25 years old.
wow.
But
So
it's worth a read.
is it still in publication?
I would think you can get a copy. I would think.
Yeah, Amazon
I hope
probably.
so. I hope so because people are going to be curious now. But I really can relate to that. If you take an esoteric concept and give it to somebody, they have no astrology. I feel like I can do that.
Right. Well, I see that too, though, with Virgo. I have to admit, I don't work with asteroids, so I am totally clueless on Chiron. And people ask me about it all the time, clients, and I'm like, I didn't know study on it. I don't, it's just not in my wheelhouse. But Mercury with Virgo is definitely a fit to me. Just like what you're saying, it reminds me of like the magician card and the tarot, where the figures like that and bringing from up high, bringing it down,
Writing comes. The writing
yeah,
comes through.
and
See,
makes it applicable in practical language for people.
and
Stuff
helpful.
that's esoteric brought in to the world for people to learn from or whatever. Yeah.
See, that's what
definitely.
I hate about that where I don't know where I shouldn't say this. I definitely don't like where astrology is going because I think it's causing more harm than good. And
Now,
I hate
say more about
because
that. Well, how do you mean?
well, because it's getting shrunken down by AI, so you're stereotyped and like okay, so I'm a Virgo and Virgo has is dissed all the time. And if I started studying astrology when I was 8 years old, and had I read about Virgo, the things they say, I don't want to kill myself. It's detrimental.
Oh, honey,
It's
you glad you're not a Cancer. That Cancer like got the worst like PR in old, like pop astrology back in the day. It was horrible. I would always skip that in those books and read my other placements because
I can see why. Yeah. See, well, I'm glad about that. But I mean, that's part of it. But also, there's people who, we all get our astrology online right now, and people write for Google and now AI. And, I have a website. Google tells me, communicates with me directly, telling me what I can't do and what I can do. I mean, literally, you are no longer to use these words, right? And so they're not writing for the person to help them. Like, Virgos really want to help. And so I hate to see that happening.
Mhm.
I hate to see that happening. It really is messing people up. And so
But
all you
you
hear about is I'm going to have a Pluto transit and it's going to be horrible and why? It's like, are you kidding me? This is everything is an opportunity. Everything is a way. You're growing, man. You're alive. You're alive.
Well, yes, but you can't, there's always stupid people.
Yeah, I
No,
know, but
I,
you
I'm
can't, you're
just
going to have a hard time accessing anything but
I
the
understand,
generic.
yeah. That's the
Uh,
theme of singularity, which tech loves, is you bring it all down and then it gets ratioed out to the common denominator. But
it's the
something like
board.
astrology to me is an art. You can't
Yeah.
take art and run it through these kind of systems and rules. Like, imagine if you were told you were going to make a painting and you could only use the color red in one way. And because that's what red was going to mean to the
Right.
common denominator looking at the painting. And this is now you've got me activated. This is what annoys me about traditional Hellenistic astrology that has this huge comeback now since, well, really with the internet getting traction, all of that came back up online. And the translations that were happening of the old texts from that period. But then that school is very much in some ways like I'm describing. They're trying to turn astrology into a technique and system and set of rules that's applicable across the board when art is anything but that. Art is a total
You're
wild
losing the
card.
person. You're losing the person again, like the person, the
Exactly.
individual. You can put that. It's the death, Pluto, of the individual. To be an individual, you may have to shallow breathe for a while. I mean, I don't know.
So you and I were talking the other day before this recording about people, and this really intrigued me because you were saying in your own chart, because of the way Pluto, Neptune, Uranus are stacking up in those, kind of close proximity to each other. So for everybody, they're having this focus on some, you could say, quarter or hemisphere of their chart,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
Say more about that because I think people will be interested in trying to and running that through their own chart, with what you were
Okay,
saying.
so what I noticed is that Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are like this, and so for the last several years since the pandemic is when I caught on to this because everyone was like either totally locked down or they were essential and they were going out. And so you were out or you were in, but you were not
Mhm,
regular because and all
mhm,
the planets were clustered and it had to correlate. And so the next year correlate again, the next year, and it's Mars that's breaking out. Right now we're going back into a cluster because Mars is retrograde. I looked at this before because I thought we were going to talk about this. Mars is going to turn direct and it'll clear in April and will start to break out and spread out. So what I was saying is in my natal chart, my focus is on the seventh, eighth, and ninth house, which you can see. I'm interested in relationships and the sex and psych and philosophy, beliefs. Um, and these planets transiting are in the opposite quadrant of my chart, which drives me crazy. So, because I'm an extrovert and now I have to be an introvert. And so I'm having to cope with that. And so I'm like, these people who don't like their Pluto transit, but I think it's been interesting to me. I'm going to be glad when they spread out.
Right.
And it's just these things are like phenomena, in astrology, and they really have a huge impact on your life. And I think people don't notice. And so, like I could say, I'm not going anywhere. It's my husband's fault. You see what I mean?
Hmm.
It's not
Hmm.
anyone's fault. This is where this has happened. It's and another thing that just blows my mind. I have quite a bit of Virgo in the eighth house. And then I live all these years and I end up with a bunch of Scorpio in the sixth house. And it's just shocking. I never had a chance. You know what I mean? I never, this is what I was going to do. I got into this when I was 8.
Right.
It's
Right.
bizarre.
Yeah.
So anyway, I like
So-
to see those I notice patterns. I notice patterns. I'm very attuned to the collective mood, and trends always, it's why you end up with the first blog on the internet, because you know what I mean? It's like a canary in the coal mine
Exactly. And still there and still publishing and still running absolutely wild. So
every day.
to kind of simplify what you were saying for the listener, where if they're thinking of their own chart because of this grouping now of the planets, the outer planets, looking at one's chart, and is it if you've got, like everything up above towards the midheaven, and then all of this stuff is moving down towards your nadir, Aquarius, Aries, Gemini, down in that area, then there's going to be that kind of pull to have whatever is most, transformative or creative in your life coming from this area related to, say, the subjective side or your private life, your home life, things like that. So you can take that group of planets, put it wherever on the chart, and then kind of get an
Yeah.
idea of where things are heading.
All the planets right now, this is breaking up now, but all the planets, and you can look back and see what was going on. They're going to land in like 3 to 4 houses in your chart.
Hmm.
That's it. And so if you just, some people love it because that's where they like to be, but other people don't. And I think that's another, what, here's something just out of the, I'm afraid to talk about this because of the sensitivities of people. The only person who's ever written about this is Stephen Arroyo, who I love. He's really my top person that I like.
Yeah.
And he's the
Classic.
only one who ever wrote about Saturn, going up, and you go into a fall for 14 years. And you can't
Now,
say
wait a
that to
minute. You
people.
mean when
Saturn
Saturn's
goes
coming to,
up, you're going up, it's going up the right side of the chart, and you're ascending. And it goes down, like I'm coming down. Like I was on the top of astrology. Nobody doubts that. And I started to come down. And they say, oh, this is Saturn. This is my cycle. And it teaches you everyone's going to be that we're all going down there. We're all going to have an emotional low. We're all going to have Saturn go through our fourth house. So you go into this fall.
so I want to clarify for the listener, because I know what you're talking about from Stephen's work. And actually, he borrowed that from Grant Louis, which is
Really?
where I first learned about
Oh,
it.
okay. I
I was
didn't know
in,
that.
well, it doesn't matter. It's still such a cogent concept that
Yeah.
I've seen it play out exactly as you're talking about.
Yeah.
And what Elsa's bringing up is if you look at your chart and where Saturn is transiting, between the midheaven and the nadir, is Saturn coming up towards your midheaven, which is bringing you up out into the world, influence, power, a sense of rhythm with everything going
Right.
on around you, or is Saturn coming from your midheaven down to your first house and then down to your nadir, where you're being pulled out of life, more like interiorized, I think, which people have a harder time with because, like you're saying, then they feel other people are preventing them from getting somewhere, or luck is
Well,
running
or
out,
they just
or
feel they're failing. They feel like
right.
they, it's not, and not in it isn't exactly negative because, like, I'll tell you, because I started this writing with Saturn in my fifth house, which is, I didn't even know I could write. I didn't even know I could write a thing. And I just started writing. Of course, I'm still writing 25 years later. But I
Hmm.
just started writing with Saturn in my fifth house, which is define your creativity. Saturn went into my sixth house. I had to edit my book. And that was very hard for me. You know how Saturn in the sixth house, it hurt my head to do that because I like to run. Mars, Mercury in the ninth. I was having fun. That was not fun anymore. Then
Right.
Saturn went into my seventh house above the horizon. That's when I started I already had a blog, but this is when I started this iteration of my blog. And it basically went from the sixth house where you're private. And I went over the horizon. I got this Elsa.com right as Saturn, you know me, I timed it right as Saturn went over the horizon. So then you're working with other people more, and you have
Right.
like your business becomes established, and then your eighth house and your ninth house, and then your 10th house, you're on top. Now you're coming down, but here's the thing, when you're on top, at least if you're me, I got a packed eighth house. You're just taking all kinds of fire. I was dating the guy, he told me it's like the tree at the top of the hill, it takes all the weather. The wind's
Hmm.
coming. It's
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
hell. You're
Hmm.
better off. When I started coming down, I realized that I made the same amount of money with Saturn in my 11th house, but I was down like, what does it matter if you're 1, 2, 10? You make the same amount of money. You know what I mean? And you
Sure.
aren't, that. And also the 11th house, once you peak, the 11th house is about wishes, hopes, and dreams. And this is when I wanted time to garden. I wanted to garden. I'm a Virgo, and I don't want to be, you're attacked. The top person always, the people at top get attacked. And
Hmm.
so it isn't necessarily, um, uh, like bad. And like, I'll give you a really a better example. When I first learned about this concept, I had a friend and she had a daughter, and her daughter was like one of those gymnast kids. And when Saturn was at the peak of her at the 10th house, she was the head cheerleader at her college. That was the peak for that girl at that age. And then what
Hmm.
happened is she got pregnant, right? Saturn in the 10th house, the structure of your life. And so that's her wishes, hopes, and dreams is to go get married. And so she get married and she went through, had her kids and went through down into a fall, and until her kids get in school. Then Saturn crosses the bottom and you start coming back up. So it's helpful.
It
And
is.
also, don't think when you're up there you're going to stay up there, because you're not.
It's like the Wheel of Fortune card
It
in the
is.
tarot, right? The characters are coming up. But I have a very similar story to yours. Like when my Saturn 25 years ago was up at the midheaven, I had like hit, the jackpot. And what's interesting was, and of course now, just like you're saying, I went from the last 7, 8 years, Saturn was at my nadir, and fourth house, fifth, sixth, and I was basically solitude, doing writing, doing this and that, but really working on my own. Saturn hit my seventh house, the horizon. Boom, I started doing like this, getting together
Yeah.
with people, doing the videos, doing the podcast, and then, back into the social world. And of course, I'm ready for my Academy Award in 3 years when Saturn's at my midheaven. But I
It's
will put,
perfect. There you go. So I think, that's I'm glad we got
I,
this in there, because it's getting lost. It's simply getting
you're right.
lost. But understanding this is so valuable.
Hmm.
It tells you, you're going up now. So, quit worrying, quit worrying when
Hmm.
oh, but they're always so hungry with ambition, because you're climbing. But I look at it like a Ferris wheel. I tell people the whole machine is taking you up. Just stop, with the concern, and
Right.
tell them,
But even when Saturn was coming down, like it really wasn't until it hit my ascendant and then second, third house where I definitely felt like I was into my interior and starting to do the kind of, I don't know, like therapeutic work, kind of going into my history with my family, the shit to do with the fourth house. And then I felt completely isolated. But there was a beauty to the isolation because of what it opened up to. That was the next thing to look at in life. So this is a problem with capitalism, especially in Western culture. You've just got to go up, 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 up. You keep going up.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's so crazy. But I'll put a link to, I don't know what a Stephen Arroyo book that concept is in, but I've written about it on my newsletter on Substack about Grant Louis with the Saturn cycle, because when I was a kid, that was a book my mom had, where Heaven Knows What and Astrology for the Millions. And that was like the best kind of education you get.
When I was really gonna commit to doing this for a living, which is, I got introduced when I was 8 and my sister was 10 and we studied together. But when I committed was when I was like 27, heading into my Saturn return. And at that time, I read every astrology book ever printed. I went to the library and I
Mhm.
borrowed them interlibrary loan. I got astrology books that had to sit in the library and read, and I took notes.
You know why?
It
Because when I was a kid and wanted the astrology books, they were always stolen. And that's why they started to make people keep them with, they had to read them in the library. It was like, okay,
Right,
let's
right.
let's shift gears before we wrap up here. Tell me and our dear listeners and watchers, what's in store for elsa.com? What's perturbating, what's cooking, what's exciting, what are you I know you redid the site, which was a wonderful improvement, as you tighten things up online.
It was falling apart. I had a 2020, it was about 23 years old. I had a
Well,
gigantic
yeah.
database. It was dying. It was on a like that. So I had it completely rebuilt about a year and a half ago. It's very fast. It's also, I moved it to a server in Germany, which is, much, 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 much more radically cheaper. So, I mean, I'm going to maintain this, going forward. And I write every day still, because I
Mhm.
like it. Um, the site's obviously not as busy as it once was. I hope that people, okay, I meant to mention this. I saw one company that in 2025, they intend to publish 8,000 AI books and flood the market.
Mhm.
And that's what's happened on social media. They just have the bots, and it just eradicates all the normal people. And I'm hoping that people do catch on to that and they go looking for heart and soul and, blood and guts. I'm the blood and guts astrologer. I used to teach classes called blood and guts astrology. So,
Yeah,
hopefully, people, they'll find their way back. I hope. If
I think
not,
they will, Elsa, because I think folks like you and I, some other astrologers I know, we're still holding the flame that has nothing to do with the whatever tech craze is and everything that represents. And not that there's anything necessarily wrong with that. I mean, there's great things about it in life. But I think, like you've been saying, when it comes down to the dumbing down of astrology for novices that are going online searching for something and then just getting this lowest common denominator AI crap. But there's going to be a turning. There will be a turning. And I think in closing here today, just recommending everybody go check out Elsa's site. There's a real vibe there of people communicating with other people, answering questions. But like I said, it doesn't have that real stringent thing of like on Reddit. like, my God, I've tried posting stuff on Reddit sometimes, and you do the smallest thing off from their agreement or terms, and then a bot comes after you. Like your post's been
They kicked me
removed.
off. They
They,
blocked, you can't even link my site from the entire Reddit has blocked my site 20 years ago.
yeah, well,
I am totally blacklisted off. This is the thing about these companies. This is why I don't go on a platform that I don't own because I will be kicked off it. It happens
yes,
every time. I blow my mouth off somehow, woo, said the wrong thing.
yes,
Uh, didn't get the update, the memo of so yeah, I think that as people ask me, am like an agony aunt, I am. I'm like, this is where you go. People come to my site and that you can say anything and you can pour your heart out and you can be anonymous. We're there to serve the people. And it's
right.
like a bar. I used to, as a teenage bartender, I'm still tending bar.
Exactly. So
Astrology
go,
theme, but
go,
we have a lounge. You can go say anything you want. You can talk, you can
right.
start any kind of topic.
So everybody go get your favorite well drink over at elsaelsa.com and her blog and her forum. And Elsa, thanks so much for joining me today. I want to do this maybe towards the summer or autumn. We'll check in again and do these, real-time finger on the pulse of what is going on, not only in our world of astrology, meaning people that aren't bots, but the bigger picture with the transits and how people are studying and learning and whatnot. Thanks so much, Elsa, for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you.
See
See
you
ya.
guys.